Need for Speed is one of the oldest game franchises that brought joy to many generations of gamers. Just to think that the first title came out 26 years ago. In its lifetime, the franchise went through numerous ups and downs, while we, gamers, witnessed this roller coaster ride. Regardless of your attitude towards the NFS series, you simply cannot deny its tremendous impact on video game industry, not to mention racing simulators. Back in the day, Need for Speed had the power to set the tone for a great variety of trends. Just take the renowned Underground. Almost every release used to be a blessing for the NFS fans. However, today the series is going through some really hard times. That's what we're going to talk about in a few seconds. You are on Drigmatic, and today we'll tell you about the death of Need for Speed. Buckle up, we're pushing this pedal to the metal.
1, 2, 3.
A little side note. The Need for Speed franchise consists of about 24 games, not to mention countless mobile and portable console versions. So in order not to stretch our running time to that of a Snyder Cut, let's have a look into the franchise's greatest projects. First things first, let's have a quick ride and pay our respects to the most old-school titles. Released in 1998, Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit was a major breakthrough for the franchise. It was the first game in the series to have introduced police pursuits that greatly affected the gameplay. Now you could be the one who breaks the law as well as the one who defends it. Split screen, a technology that allows two people to play on the same computer, was also introduced. The driving was rebalanced, so the game no longer resembled an arcade-like nightmare, nor a monotonous driving simulator. If you're surprised, don't be. Weak sales of the second title made the developers revise their views on the series, which, as we can see, only benefited from it. Customizing, or sort of, was also added. It didn't reach for the stars, but the player could change the color of his ride. The option to see each car's characteristics was also a huge advantage of the game. Both critics and players were satisfied with the third title in the series, to say the least. The game was receiving an average of 8.6 out of 10. It was a commercial success. Let's skip a couple of titles and take a leap right into the year 2003 to see the renowned Underground. By that time, the sales of previous titles were consistently on decline, as well as the NFS fanbase. The developers had to urgently revamp the concept of Need for Speed and give it a new lease of life. The help came in the face of the Fast and Furious movie, which had set a new trend. A trend for street racing. In Underground, you had not only to make it first to the finish line, you had to make it in style. It was the style that determined the new vector of development for the series. Customization in Underground was completely reworked. Now you were allowed to turn your car into the sweetest ride in town that would not only leave other competitors far behind, but also blind them with beauty. Style became the key aspect of the game. The player received style points for successful stunts like drift or jump. When the player gained a maximum amount of style points, the game would award him with a customization piece in exchange for all points. Above all, the developers also added money that the player could earn by participating in races. They could then spend it on new cars and various upgrades. The game's major drawback, according to the critics, was the necessity to go through the same racing tracks over and over again, in career mode. Many were also unhappy with the new competitor's AI, that was quickly deemed cheaty. Many game journalists warned players that in order to win the race, they'll have to spend a lot of time cruising around on identical tracks first. But nonetheless, a good majority of critics and gamers praised this title to the skies by giving it an average of 8.3 out of 10, whereas 7 million sold copies made Electronic Arts crack the whip and motivate the developer studio Black Box to release a sequel ASAP. It didn't take long though. 1 year since the release of the original Underground 2 saw the light of day. Only it didn't offer anything extraordinary to the players. The game's main feature was an open world that spared gamers from corridor races, while Night City was no longer a problem for you to drive around. Of course, they refreshed the carpool by adding SUVs with their distinctive lanky controlling. The graphics also received an upgrade, along with the audio. The game process itself remained relatively unchanged. The driving mechanics still favored an arcade gaming style rather than a serious sim. Not adding the cops was the funniest part. However, it didn't seem as funny to the disappointed fans. As surprising as it may be, in the end, the sequel got a better score than the original, 8.6 out of 10. Only the sales were 2 times lower than those of the original. For the developer studio, it meant only one thing. To hell with the sequels, we need a fresh start. And they were damn right. Need for Speed Most Wanted, that came out in 2005, is still viewed by many as the best game in the whole franchise to this very day. Just reminiscing about this intro gives me goosebumps.
Hi, I'm Josie Marin, and I play Mia in Need for Speed Most Wanted. Make sure you do all your racing in the game.
So, what's the secret? Well, let's find out. Let's start off with the most important feature, the carpool. Most Wanted could offer the player somewhat of 31 vehicles of all kinds. Mercedes, BMW, Lamborghini, Porsche, and many others. Also, the franchise introduced Cadillac CTS and Fiat Punto, meaning that once again there has been a shift towards sports cars instead of regular production cars. Up next, customization. It was still quite interesting to customize your car, even if we take into account that the developers had to cut out several features, like underbody neon lighting or painting selected parts of the car. Nonetheless, you still could change the car's body, choose wheels, and put a spoiler that would suit your taste. And of course, you were allowed to paint your ride as you please. Now let's add some vinyl stickers, as well as some abstract and non-abstract patterns. And that pretty much sums it up for the exterior. Now let's get to the interior. It can also be upgraded by purchasing various costly parts, like engine, turbocharge, transmission, brakes, tires, underbody lighting, and of course, nitrous boost. Now, customization is great and all, but how did cars behave back in 2005? A little bit differently, actually. In comparison to the renowned underground, you were much more likely to find yourself in a slip. It became quite a task to stay on track while passing a sharp turn and not lose the whole race beforehand. However, you should only be scared of that if your speed breaker scale was showing 0. This scale is the game's novelty that brought in some casualness to balance the fact that the cars became harder to control. I think there is no point in explaining how this game mode works. The speed became a real thing. 100 miles per hour and 200 were now worlds apart, and the player had to keep his eyes on the road not to skip another sharp turn. In terms of driving, the game didn't offer anything special, nor did it pursue such a goal. Regardless of the fact that the game was quite casual, it sure did its job very well. It managed to entertain the player by challenging him with a task that he could accomplish, yet only if he puts a certain amount of effort. And certain challenges were ooh la la, just remember the last race in the blacklist and the police chase afterwards. And by the way, here's another bright side of the game. In almost every race, police was trying to put a spike in our wheels. And yet, which gameplay diversity it offered us in return? There were a whole bunch of traps scattered around the city. Billboards, gas stations, or giant freaking donuts. Every and each one of these objects could be deadly for the law enforcers if used in time. Each trap was quite a performance. Let's take the trick with the truck full of locks for one. Good old days. If you were too lazy to search for a trap, then a full-speed hit into a police car that would trash it to smithereens was always a viable option as well. Now, finally, the plot. The last thing to look at in racing games. Yet, even here, Most Wanted had put up a good show. The plot itself can't be nominated for an Oscar, of course, but the narrative is mind-boggling, especially for 2005. It makes you feel like you're watching a movie about street races that are constantly on the run from the cops. Hello there, Fast and Furious! With an exception that all the cutscenes are from the first-person perspective. That only adds to the immersion. The voice actors also did a great job. All characters came out charismatic. Not to mention the female main protagonist that stole my heart.
Hey, stay focused. He's rolling on a lot of power, so wait for him to shift first.
But do you know what makes racing at top speeds while trying to lose cops or customizing your car in the garage so great? That's right, the marvelous soundtrack that sets the player's speakers on fire. Well, I'm sure we've all recalled why Most Wanted is considered one of the best, if not the best game in the franchise, and why the iconic BMW M3 GTR with that paint still strikes a chord in all of us. Both critics and players gave a warm welcome to the game. An average score on Metacritic was 8.7 out of 10. By 2009, there were around 16 million sold copies, which made Most Wanted the franchise's top-selling game. In 2006, a new game was released, Carbon, which was a rightful heir of Most Wanted. You'll feel it as soon as you start the game. The story took place in another city, and instead of a cloudy day, we're now in the middle of the night. Perhaps it were the cops that became the game's main peculiarity. Now they were trying to arrest the player much less willingly. The emphasis was made, who could have thought, on racing and of course on customization. That has been improved since Most Wanted. In addition, the player could create a team by hiring various races and take part in a good majority of competitions with them. Moreover, each racer had his own role. Scouts looked for shortcuts, blockers did their best to slow down other contenders, and drafters assisted the player in gaining top speed. In comparison to the previous game, a big emphasis has been made on drifting. A decent chunk of gameplay was now centered around it. For those who like to drift, the developers added a new mode called drifting, where the players had to, unexpectedly, drift on a track in a narrow canyon to earn special points that would allow them to win the race. The game was favorably received by both gamers and critics. Its average score is 7.4 out of 10. Oddly enough, many have marked police chases and boss races as the game's weak sides. Let's jump directly to 2007 to see Need for Speed Pro Street, which should have never seen the light of day in the first place in my opinion. But good news first. Car customization became more realistic. Simple body, bumper or spoiler adjustments changed the car's aerodynamics and affected its stats and how it was controlled on track. That's hell of a novelty even for a racing casual like me. As if this wasn't enough, the car's inner components, like engine, springs or gearbox, had to be manually adjusted according to the type of race for peak performance. This required some time, but again only added to the immersion. I felt like a true racer while fiddling with all these stats. Above all, finally, the car was able to sustain some serious damage, as if it was some Nikita Mazepin behind the steering wheel and not Schumacher. Then, if sustained a critical amount of damage, the car could die and refuse to start again. And here comes the part that hurts the most. All these undoubtedly huge advantages shatter because of the very concept of the game. Before Pro Street, the franchise was steadily advancing in the field of street racing, while players were completely satisfied with such order of things. Of course, same features don't fill the belly, and the low sales of NFS Carbon proved it. But the decision to change the game's concept in Pro Street so drastically and so out of the blue was obviously a poor choice. It's true that the driving and customization became more realistic, but this cannot justify a total absence of street races. Moreover, absence of free races. They're just not there. Cruising around on the same tracks without having a possibility to roam an open location was extremely boring. The project came out relatively fresh, yet quite questionable. That explains dismal player score, 6.4 on Metacritic. Methinks we'll skip Undercover that turned out to be an utter failure and get right to NFS Shift, Black Box's next attempt to make a realistic game. And by the gods, they made it this time. To give you a little sneak peek, the game was given a warm welcome, 83 average score on Metacritic, I promise. Only that's the critic score. The user score is 5.8 out of 10. But compared to Undercover, it's a success that can be easily explained. To begin with, the fans still had a bitter aftertaste because of Undercover that didn't offer anything new. Shift, in its turn, continued to develop the concept of professional races, while simultaneously correcting the mistakes of its predecessor. Thus, maps became more diverse. They now consisted of Grand Prix tracks as well as of the street tracks that were created manually by the developers. The devs also went through the customization system. Now you could customize your ride in a whole variety of new ways to make it look exquisite. This meant that the driving process had to become even more realistic. It's also worth mentioning the first-person point of view, directly from the driver's seat. This feature was last seen in NFS Porsche that came out in the year 2000. A year later, there was either a remake or reboot of the infamous game of 1998, NFS Hot Pursuit. After a while, the developers managed to get the franchise back to its roots. Once again, we have a big city with an area of 160 square kilometers. In Burnout Paradise, the map was 4 times smaller. You could roam the city as you please until you encounter the cops. Yep, you heard it right. The insane police chases have returned, and the emphasis has been done on the top-notch sports cars. Just like in 1998 game, you could play as a racer as well as a cop. Moreover, each side had its own career mode. Race types pretty much copied the original game. For example, the chase, where the player had to make it to the finish line without getting caught by the police. While if you played as a cop, you had to do your best to prevent the racer from reaching the finish line. Yet, there were some new modes as well, like Interception, where the player playing as a cop had to catch the racer within a limited time. Car physics became more casual, and if the critics were head over heels, the players only gave the game a modest 6.9 out of 10. Let's skip a rather neutral sequel of Shift and get to a more interesting project, NFS The Run. Regardless of the fact that conceptually the game went into a different dimension, back in the day it even brought me pleasure, of sorts. This is a linear, arcade-like racing sim through and through, with an emphasis on the plot and certain elements of action and QTE that I had beaten a long time ago with hands behind my back, and that I won't come anywhere near to unless I'm completely pissed. The game has a well-earned low score from critics, 69 out of 100, and 6.2 out of 10 from users. That is because The Run looks like a story standalone DLC for the main game, rather than the main game itself. But if in The Run Black Box at least tried to make an original story, then the project, which was released in 2012, and which God knows why was named Most Wanted, is a juicy slap in the face to the franchise's fans. I remember how I got acquainted with this game as if it was yesterday. It's hard to forget, you know. They were giving it out for free in Origin, and I instantly noticed this imposter. The first thought that came to my mind after 10 minutes of playing this game was, how did they dare give it this title?
How dare you stand where he stood?
Given the new NFS, such a title was Electronic Arts' greatest mistake. They wanted to draw as much attention to the project as possible. Only the players, once they got a grasp of what just happened, conceived a hatred for EA as well as for the game itself. The irony is that Most Wanted 2012 can be called an unambiguously bad game. It had decent graphics, good driving mechanics, and an open city. But once again, the game's title ruined literally all its merits. A good plot that is creatively presented. Nope, there is no plot at all. Well, not a big deal, Hot Pursuit didn't have one either. Ah yes, the game's title is Most Wanted. Don't expect equally cool customization as well. Cars that you have to just find instead of winning or buying them. There are lots of activities on the map, yet the world still feels empty. And to cut the long story short, Most Wanted 2012 is still considered as an attempt to feed upon the original game, while the user score of 4.4 on Metacritic speaks volumes. There is no point talking about NFS rivals, the clone of Hot Pursuit, so let's get to a game that marked a new era for the franchise, which came out in 2015.
How will they remember you?
When I saw the trailer of the reboot, I held my breath and began to wait for the release. Deep down, I hoped that this was the right thing to do, that the devs would give their game a fresh start and get it back to its roots. But the release put an end to this fool's paradise of mine. The graphics are pretty impressive, no doubts here, but it was hardly an advantage in 2015, especially among racing simulators. The game's actions took place only at night, and I was totally okay with it. I also liked the first-person point-of-view narrative with live voice actors, until they started talking. How come that in 2005 ridiculous yet bright and charismatic characters could carry the plot on their backs? And in 2015 it didn't work, because in the reboot they're absolutely toneless. That's why. Their performance is on the Razzie Award level. They're boring. You just don't want to listen to them. More than that, quite often the only thing you could get by listening to them was unfathomable, first-rate cringe.
Oh, man, you ran away to join the circus too, huh?
But never mind. What's with the cars? The couple was out of question. The customization was decent. You were allowed to tune each ride so it suits your personal needs, let it be drifting or just speeding. However, the driving process started to raise some questions. Each driving simulator's main objective is to bring you joy from, well, driving the car. However, in the new NFS I had a really hard time enjoying this process. After visiting a bunch of forums and threads, I realized that I wasn't alone. Besides numerous complaints about optimization, players were greatly unsatisfied with the quality and quantity of the game's content. Some time passed, but in the end, updates finally arrived. Legends added a number of well-known cars from previous games. The infamous BMW M3 was added as well, of course, but it was appealed to cure an earthquake. The last nail in the coffin of the game came in the face of a necessary internet connection, without which the game refused to start at all. The only score that players could give to such a gift from EA was 5 out of 10. It hurts me to see a once great series of racing games going through some really rough times. especially having realized that the reboot won't change anything. Ah, yes, Payback. A perfect sequel, at least on paper. No necessary internet connection, a bigger and more thoroughly designed open world, an emphasis on the plot and police chases. I mean, can't go wrong, right? We actually got all of the above, but nobody fixed the monotonous, boring gameplay. As a bonus, we were given an extremely casual driving and a meh-level plot. Microtransactions that heavily influenced the gameplay served as an icing on the cake. For instance, if the player didn't want to spend money, they had to grind in order to advance the plot. The game was bombed by critics, while the user score was even worse, 3.7 out of 10.
If you catch fire, run. You'll burn faster.
After such a failure, the only emotion I could express while looking at Hit was an ironic smirk. Electronic Arts put a lot of effort into the game's advertising, the only thing they always have money for. Yet I decided to try this game only when I purchased an EA Access subscription. It granted access to a full edition with all the goodies and bonuses. So I launched the game, oozing with skepsis, and I was satisfied, more or less. You know, it's one of these cases when the game doesn't really excite you, but you can't really call it a piece of garbage. That's exactly what I felt. It only took EA to scrap the unholy microtransaction system, ignore the plot, and judging by how cringe-inducing the plot is, that's exactly what they did. Amplify customization in keeping with the best traditions of Most Wanted, and spruce it all up with some style, just like in good old Underground. And that's what they did. In short, it's a very stylish game. Almost every aspect is beautiful and coherent. From the customization in terms of visual design to the simplest transitions. My respect to Ghost Game, the studio that has been in charge of the NFS series for some years now. You even feel sorry for the poor guys, because they get all the biddings from the publishers, EA in our case, idiotic decisions. The driving took a minor improvement. Most cars still have the maneuverability of an armored train. Yet nonetheless, it's an improvement. However, the first thing that got me truly happy was the customization system. Oh my, you can customize not just your ride, but your character as well. Dress him or her up as you like, buy the gums from the top brands. And if you are more into cars, then go on. Change lights, splashers, bumpers, roofs, tires, wheels, radiators, as you want. Just like in the old times. I almost shed a manly tear, but sucked it back up after having explored the city a little bit. Some cars do really behave better, that's true. At least the process of driving now gives you pleasure. Not always though, but most of the time. The races aren't really that diverse, but it seems everyone's used to that. There are also some other activities that are barely worth your time, let alone the plot itself. So, taking all this into account, why did I spend more than 15 minutes in this game? There are two main reasons: cars and customization. It's been a while since the last time I enjoyed pimping my ride so much. The infamous BMW M3 E30 instantly stole my heart. You can adjust your car to drifting, circuit racing, or off-roading. Of course, the more or less realistic simulation is out of discussion, but that's as good as it gets. Besides, NFS The Hit makes it pretty clear that it doesn't need one. So, to all NFS fans who are still out there, Hit is one of the few franchise's recent games that actually doesn't make you wanna throw up, and that you can actually play, although without exultation. One way or another, players gave the project 5.4 out of 10. Alright, so what's the outcome? One of the oldest and most respected racing sim franchises has been in a profound crisis for the past years. This table vividly illustrates the series' downfall. The user scores are picked from Metacritic. If from 1998 to 2006 the scores were actually quite good, then in 2007 there has been a turning point. Scores dropped to average numbers. The situation remained unchanged until 2015, when there was a decision to reboot NFS. As you may see, the reboot was unsuccessful. As a die-hard fan, I surely hope that the situation will change for the better. Because Need for Speed, a franchise that was a source of joy and drive for millions of people, definitely deserves much more than a 2015 reboot, payback or hit. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe, push the bell button and press like. Share with us in the comment section which game from the NFS series stole your heart. See you on Drigmatic.